What's going on, guys? Ben here with Corona Hardwood, flooring you can trust. In today's video, we're looking at engineered hardwood flooring, and more specifically, we'll be focusing in on the wear layer. One of the big questions we'll be answering is, does a thicker wear layer equal greater performance? At the end of the video, we're going to do some testing, and I'm certain the results will surprise you. But before we move on to that, let's define what a wear layer is. When you're looking at an engineered hardwood floor, you'll notice that it's made up of multiple layers of wood. This could be 2, 3, 5, 7, maybe even 10 layers of wood. As long as there's 2 or more, we're talking about an engineered hardwood floor. When we're looking at the wear layer, we're looking at the very top layer of wood veneer. This is what will determine the species of the floor. It'll also determine the overall thickness and usually the price. One interesting fact about the wear layer is it actually receives very little to no wear throughout the life of the floor. What you're actually wearing and walking on is the finish coat that's applied on top of the wear layer, usually a type of polyurethane. So let's talk about a few reasons why somebody would want a thicker wear layer. The number one reason I hear from my customers is, I want to be able to sand my floor down multiple times in the future. And while that sounds great, the question is it practical? Usually the first question I'll ask the customer is, when's the last time you had a floor sanded in your home? 99% of customers will tell me, never. So what's the likelihood of you having a floor sanded in the future? The reality is slim to none. But let's just say for a second that you have had experience with a floor sanded in your home. You know what's involved, and it's something that you're seriously considering. Well, with the floors available on the market today, they usually feature some kind of texture, might be a hand scrape texture, distressed, or a wire brush texture. And if you are going for a perfectly smooth floor, usually there'll be some kind of bevel to accentuate each plank. So when we sand down a floor, what you're left with is a completely smooth floor that looks nothing like what you had before. Now, that's not a look that most people are going for nowadays. Besides that, there are other processes to where you could refinish your floor without ever sanding into the wear layer. This is called the screen and recoat process, where the top finish is buffed out and a new coat of finish is applied. The second top reason I hear from my customers is, well, thicker is better. In our consumer-driven society, we've been taught to think that if I get more of something, if it's thicker, if it's longer, it must be better. Well, let me ask you this. If you double up on your laundry detergent, do your clothes come out cleaner? What if I told you that you could get the same performance from a 1/2 inch thick 2mm wear layer as you can with a 3/4 inch 6mm wear layer at a fraction of the price? What's better at that point? The third and final reason that I hear from customers is, well, I want something that's going to hold up for a long time. I need the floor to perform well. I don't want to put anything cheap in my house. Recently, I had a client come in and choose a 7.5 inch wide European oak floor, 1/2 inch thick with a 2mm top layer. She loved the color. It was perfect. She took it home. She showed it to her friends and family, and everybody fell in love with the floor. There was one problem. She came back to my store and said, I love this floor, but I need something that has at least a 4mm wear layer. So I told her, tell me more. I guess she went into a different retail store over the weekend while she borrowed our sample and let him know what she was looking at. The guy told her, you don't want to put that in your house. You're building a $2 million home in Huntington Beach. You don't want to put a cheap floor in there. It's not going to hold up. It's going to dent real easily, and you'll be replacing that floor in 5 years. This is not what she wanted to hear. So in today's video, I decided to put these floors to the test to see if there's any credibility to what this salesperson was telling my client. So in front of me, I have a standard 1/2 inch thick 2mm engineered hardwood floor. Then we have a 5/8 inch thick 4mm wear layer and a 3/4 inch thick 6mm wear layer engineered hardwood floor. So we're going to put these floors to the test and see how they hold up. So let's move on to our state-of-the-art laboratory. By the way, if you have a reason why you want a thicker wear layer that I did not already address, leave it in the comments down below. For our test, we'll be dropping common household items onto our flooring samples from approximately counter height. These items include a steak knife, barbecue fork, hammer, and a 5-pound dumbbell. Once the test is complete, we will closely examine each floor and compare the damage. We will also be using an electronic depth gauge to determine whether a thinner wear layer dents more easily than a thicker wear layer. We begin by dropping the steak knife. As you can see, it digs right into the wear layer, leaving a deep but narrow gash. The visible damage appears to be approximately the same across all 3 samples. When we measured the depth of the damage, we can see a clear difference between the 3 floors. The knife went completely through the 2mm wear layer with a total depth of 2.85 millimeters. The knife was also able to completely go through the 4mm wear layer with a total depth of 4.24 millimeters. Although the knife was not able to completely break through the 6mm wear layer, it did leave the most amount of damage, coming in at 5.2 millimeters in depth. Let's move on to our second test, the barbecue fork. While it does have more weight behind it, it's not as sharp as the knife, so it'll be interesting to see if it's able to penetrate through the 2 and 4mm wear layers. It definitely has more of a bounce to it. Let's see how the floors did. Looks like it wasn't able to break through a 2mm wear layer, penetrating at 1.78 millimeters. The fork left a deep gouge in the 4mm wear layer, but still did not penetrate completely through. And last but not least, the 6mm wear layer. Despite being the thickest, it actually sustained the most amount of damage. I think we're beginning to see a pattern here. But wait, we're not done yet. It's hammer time. Let's see what kind of damage we can cause here. The 2mm floor did very well here. Definitely left an indentation, but it was just over 0.5 millimeter deep. The 4mm wear layer performed very similarly with just under 3/4 millimeter in depth. But once again, the 6mm wear layer had the worst performance, causing a deep indentation that is almost 1.5 millimeters deep. We continued our testing by dropping the 5-pound weight, but the results remained consistent. The 2 and 4mm wear layer performed relatively the same, while the 6mm wear layer received the most amount of damage. I think it's safe to say that this myth is busted. While our test did have some variables that were out of our control, it appears that the ply layers beneath the wear layer actually provide additional support and strengthen your floor. I don't want this video to discourage anyone from purchasing a thicker product, but I don't think the thickness should be the main focus. The color, style, and your budget are much more important factors to consider. If you would like to see more of my content, click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be notified when I post a new video. Thank you for watching.